This is Eddie Carthen, former mayor of Chula, Mississippi. He recently was acquitted of arranging the murder of a political rival. This week's Jack Anderson Confidential examines Carthen's charge that he was framed for the murder by the town's white power structure. Also, we continue our look at Guatemala's reign of terror as extremists of both the right and left engage in unchecked violence and destruction. Don't miss Jack Anderson Confidential.
The CIA has killed more people than the PLO, the Baader Meinhof, the Red Brigade, and the Israeli army put together.
A raging controversy within the CIA, spy versus spy.
I can be 50, 60 feet away from people at times and just get so nauseated that I just start, I don't really heave, but I just get like the dry heaves.
Death and illness stalk workers at U.S. Air Force bases. A country is destroyed, terror of the right and the left. These stories coming up next on Jack Anderson Confidential. Now from Washington, here is Jack Anderson.
The elections are over. In a few days, senators will start moving into their newest office building. It bears the name of the late Philip Hart, a senator from Michigan. He was one of the most beloved members of the Senate. He would be painfully embarrassed over the honor. The building is everything he was not: ostentatious, extravagant, excessive. The senators have spared no expense. They started out to build a $48 million structure. They wound up with a $137 million monstrosity. The cost overruns were 2 times greater than the original cost. The walls of the new building are adorned with the most expensive marble that money can buy. Outside each senator's private office is a balcony framed with avant-garde glass railings. And on the inside, dome skylights focus the sun's rays upon an atrium. The decor is more suitable for a luxury hotel than an office building. Each senator will be ensconced in an office with a 16-foot ceiling, private washrooms, and staircases that connect the 2 levels of his suite. The stairs are curved marble masterpieces. In the basement below, a Disneyland model train will whisk the senators to and from the Senate floor, thus saving their breath for oratory. But the secret is the roof. This has been declared off-limits to reporters, but my reporter Greg Rushford threatened to film the roof from a helicopter, so he was allowed to take these exclusive pictures. Now, what are the senators hiding up there? The view is impressive, the marble trimmings are extravagant. And see that plain brown roof? That's a special $16,000 tennis court. It's ready to use. All they have to do is paint the lines and put up a net.
Whose idea was it to put a tennis court up on that roof?
It was, of course, the Senate Office Building Commissions, who, as I said, has policy direction.
What is going to happen to the tennis court?
Well, clearly the area, all areas of the roof of the building needed to be waterproof. We could have put a roof there that was simply a waterproofing, but for negligible additional amount of money, we could make a waterproof roof that could also have tennis played on it. And I suspect that's what will happen to it.
The senators also set aside $450,000 to build a private gymnasium in the new building, complete with steam room and massage facilities. And they earmarked $600,000 for another private restaurant. But this looked bad at a time when nearly everybody else's budget was being cut and people were going hungry. There was also an election coming up, so the construction was stopped. But now the election is over. I'll bet you a ticket to a Howard Baker benefit that the senators will get their gymnasium, restaurant, and tennis court. Then the same senators who complained about the extravagance will quietly enjoy the comforts. When I return, a heated debate between former CIA agents and their critics.
You and I live in the same community, the world community. And when someone is hurting somewhere in the world, we need to be concerned and, if possible, involved. Hi, I'm Jamie Farr. All politics aside, I have a way for you to get involved in helping the suffering children and adults in one of the hurting places of the world right now, Lebanon. The way is through this toll-free telephone number on your screen. Your gift in any amount through International Christian Aid will be used to provide food, clothing, tents, blankets, medicine, and other emergency supplies. Just call this toll-free number and tell our operator the amount you'd like to give. We'll do the rest. You know from the news that there are thousands of suffering people in Lebanon. This telephone call will be your compassionate contact to get involved. Your telephone call and your gift are needed right now, so please call now.
If you have to wait a week for business news, maybe it's not news anymore. The Wall Street Journal gives you today's business news today, so you can use it today.
Get all the business news you need when you need it. Get the Wall Street Journal. Delivered every business day for 6 months for $47. Just 37 cents a day. Phone toll free 800-453-4806. That's 6 months, $47, only 37 cents a day. Phone 800-453-4806 now.
Some of our spies have come in from the cold. They have spoken out in a profession that prizes loyalty and silence above all else. Disgruntled former agents have written books about alleged CIA abuses. Others have named agents who are still undercover. Well, this has caused an uproar in the intelligence community. A few days ago, there was a confrontation in Washington between former CIA agents and their critics. My associate Jack Mitchell was there and picked up this barbed exchange.
I submit that you're working for the enemies of the United States for the simple reason that people like you defending the CIA are the people that have discredited this country with murder, with activities that are worse than anything any other intelligence agency has done.
This man, John Stockwell, is a CIA outcast. He hardly looks the part, and he's as rugged as he looks, with a record to match. He served first in the Marines, then in the CIA. He conducted highly classified covert operations in dangerous areas of Africa, where life is cheap. But 6 years ago, Stockwell became sickened at some of the CIA tactics. He made up his mind to quit the agency.
I had concluded after Vietnam, after 3 tours in Africa before that, and particularly after the CIA's Angola program, of which I was the task force commander, that the CIA's operations were profoundly wrong on 2 counts. One of them is they were morally wrong, what we were doing, and 2, they were not advancing the national security interests of this country in any positive way.
Did you complain through channels while you were in the CIA?
Yes, I did indeed. I talked to my bosses about it. I talked to them about my complaints in the Angola program of the illegal operations, alliance with South Africa, the hiring of mercenaries, manipulation of U.S. press, the lying to the Senate.
Stockwell's claim that he submitted his protest to his superiors is disputed by one of his superiors, former CIA Director Stansfield Turner.
I had a standing rule that any employee who wanted to see me or write to me privately had direct access, a sealed envelope or a knock on the door, and he could get an appointment. Stockwell never tried that. What he did instead was write a letter to me and publish it in the Washington Post before I got it.
John Stockwell told me that he went through some angry soul-searching before he made his complaints public.
They have put in jeopardy this noble country's moral right to leadership in the world of nations. We've killed, the CIA has killed more people than the PLO, the Baader Meinhof, the Red Brigade, and the Israeli army put together.
There has been anguish on both sides of the issue. David Atlee Phillips is also a former CIA agent. Like Stockwell, Phillips has had his share of dangerous assignments. He formerly directed covert operations in Latin America. Phillips has often defended the CIA. But Phillips, too, has gone through family trauma because of his CIA connections.
There's a myth that intelligence officers don't tell their families what they do, what they must tell their families, within reason, even teenage children. And it was a very positive experience when I went through my first 4 experiences telling teenagers that I really worked for the CIA. But in 1975, when I told my 5th child, a 15-year-old girl, that I really worked for the CIA, her response was, "But that's dirty."
Do you agree with what's called dirty tricks as practiced by the CIA?
Well, using dirty tricks is the category for covert action, meddling around in other people's affairs. There's some question in my mind whether we should be doing that at this time in history. Quite frankly, one of the reasons is that if you are going to engage in that kind of operation, don't do it unless it's secret. I'm not really quite sure whether the intelligence community and the administration in our country now is capable of keeping many secrets from journalists who work hard to get them.
Stansfield Turner is convinced of the need for covert activities.
There are circumstances where I can see it to be in the best interest of this country to try to overthrow another government, but that's got to be a decision made by the President of the United States, and the system is set up today so that it cannot be done without the President's personal approval, without the notification of 2 committees of the Congress.
Meanwhile, the CIA is using foreign forces, some of them of questionable reliability, to carry out its clandestine activities. This raises a question. Should the CIA finance groups that it cannot control? This much is certain. The CIA is quietly returning to its old ways of stirring up secret mischief abroad. This raises another question. Will these dirty tricks enhance our national security, or will they create more John Stockwells? When I return, I'll tell you about a killer that may be stalking military bases.
I'm here on behalf of International Christian Aid to ask your support for a major relief effort in Lebanon. Putting all politics aside, most would agree we must now turn our attention toward helping the homeless and needy, and especially the children. Children like this young boy who suffered severe burns. He was found and helped by International Christian Aid, a world relief agency that is already at work providing emergency relief in Lebanon. Thousands of these innocent little ones desperately need your help and mine. This toll-free number on your screen is a way for you to help them. Your gift, in any amount, will be used by International Christian Aid to provide food, clothing, tents, blankets, yes, and emergency medical supplies and assistance. The need is urgent. Will you help? Go to your phone right now and call our toll-free number. We'll do the rest. Together, we can help children in Lebanon who need to know that you and I care.
A silent killer has struck Hill Air Force Base in northern Utah. The same pestilence is likely to hit dozens of other military depots across the country. The killer may be a poison, a vapor of death that seeps into the lungs and blood. It could come from toxic chemicals that are used to clean and repair military equipment. The first casualties are appearing at Hill Field, where workers have been exposed longer to the chemicals. Hill Air Force Base is Utah's largest employer. 14,000 civilians work here. For 30 years, they've kept missiles and warplanes ready for attack. Now, they themselves are the victims of an attack, an insidious attack of sickness and death. More than 1,000 workers are gravely ill. 110 have died of cancer. The unfortunate workers have just been breathing fumes too long from mixtures of trichloroethylene, benzene, chloroform, toluene, and methyl ethyl ketone. Delton Kilman must now wear a mask linked to a compressed air tank whenever he comes near other people. He worked with toxic chemicals at Hill Air Force Base from 1973 to 1980.
People make me very sick because of what they include in their daily life, like aftershave lotion, hairsprays, scented deodorants, clothing softeners that you put in there, soaps. We have to be very careful with the type of soaps we use, and this stuff, and it stays in your clothes, and it really affects me. It really wipes me out. I can be 50, 60 feet away from people at times, and just get so nauseated that I don't really heave, but I just get like the dry heaves.
My associate Jeff Goldman asked Kilman to describe his first encounter with chemical poisoning.
I was working real hard and fast in my fuel cells to get my work done, and then one of the co-workers came up, and I was immobilized. I couldn't move. I couldn't get out of the fuel cell because I had used too much trichloroethylene trying to clean the tank on the inside, preparing it, and he had to grab me right here, and he lifted me up out of the fuel cell until my arms were like this on the outside. I mean, I was conscious, but I couldn't move, and it's really a weird feeling, you know, when you can't make your arms and legs move. No matter what your thoughts are, you can't make your body operate, you know.
Had you felt that condition before?
Well, we had felt the numbness before, but I'd never experienced anything that bad. And then on the way to the parking lot after I punched out to go home, I could just walk a little ways, and then I had to stop because my chest just felt like somebody had a bear hug on you, and you couldn't breathe, and the pain was tremendous.
The government won't grant Kilman workers' compensation. His physician is Dr. John Cook of Salt Lake City, Utah.
Mr. Kilman lives a very precarious life, He lives a life where if he can avoid the irritants, the sensitive chemicals in the air, he can exist pretty well and function pretty well. But if he cannot avoid them, he is then in a relatively marked danger, just like somebody put their hands around your neck and started to squeeze. Be very uncomfortable, very tight, cutting off the breathing.
Would you then say this illness was job-related as a result of the exposure to those chemicals?
Yes, as I would definitely say so. He was sent home from Hillfield a number of times by the medical personnel at Hillfield because of exposure problems. And I have one statement that they told him to come to my office. And on the way home, he became unconscious, awakened before he got to my office, but was in rather marked difficulty breathing when he arrived.
Kent Clayton now works in the open air on the runways of Hillfield. But in the early 1970s, he scrubbed out the wheel wells of jet aircraft. He was constantly exposed to toluene, the same addictive chemical abused by glue sniffers.
It's like being drunk or drunk and high at the same time. I mean, you just kind of go nuts. You just, you know, like saying, normally if you could have the air in there, you could probably do the job in an hour, but some people would spend 8 hours in one wheel well and just stand there the whole day.
Exposed to those type of chemicals in such concentrated doses.
Right, right.
And nobody ever thought anything about it?
Well, they just drag them outside, get a little air, they'd straighten up a little bit, and then go right back in and try to finish the job that had to be done in there.
Clayton has cancer. A second lump was discovered shortly before we interviewed him. There have been more than 100 fatal cases of cancer among Hillfield workers. The government has not acknowledged that these deaths are job-related.
Do you feel you may be running out of time and trying to get to the bottom of this?
Try not to think about it, but yeah, I kind of think I'm running out of time.
Do you think you may be dying?
Well, nobody wants to think that you may be dying, but good possibility.
Federal health inspectors examined the working conditions at Hillfield in 1978. They found cases of rare bone marrow cancer. They also found widespread symptoms of central nervous system damage among the workers. But last year, Richard McKenzie, then the deputy director of maintenance at Hillfield, defended the base at a local press conference.
We provide a safe place to work. We meet all the standards that have been established by the scientists and by those who are responsible in those particular areas.
Janice Limburg's husband, Robert, worked for 13 years in the precision measurement electronics lab at Hillfield. His work required him to use benzene, carbon tetrachloride, methyl ethyl ketone, chloroform, and trichloroethylene. He died in 1980. He was 47 years old. This week he would have celebrated his 50th birthday.
He was, for years, was very adamant that the chemicals were being used incorrectly.
Didn't they listen to him?
Oh no. He put in a suggestion for a cleaning room when he first went to Hill Air Force Base and was told that it was not cost effective. In other words, the amount of money spent was more than the value of the people that it would be protecting. I believe that this is nationwide as far as military, as installations that are doing this type of work. And that, I think, is part of the problem, because if the Air Force admits anything of what's going on at Hill, that is going to be multiplied by however many bases they're doing this same work. Because what is going on here, I don't think, is exclusive to Utah. The rest of the nation needs to be looking at Hill Air Force Base, because they've probably got the same situation in their own backyard. My husband is dead. The government owes people that are still alive safe working conditions, and those that are suffering some kind of compensation to ease their lives. For me, there is nothing. My husband's gone. I am speaking to try and prevent other people going through what he and I have gone through. There's nothing in this for me. I'm speaking for all the other people, the other workers that are going through what we went through. And there are more of them. They're still getting sick and they're still dying.
What happened to the victims at Hill Field can be expected to happen to workers at other military bases. One final note. Not long ago, Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger announced the winner of the Pentagon's Environmental Quality Award. The award recognizes outstanding leadership in protecting the environment. The winner was Hill Air Force Base. The United States may be about to jump into the middle of another civil war. A report on this when I return. The United States is already involved in El Salvador, where civil war is raging. Now the Reagan administration may be about to step in the middle of another civil war. The administration fears that Guatemala is the next target for communist subversion, that this would give the communists a base for infiltrating and undermining Mexico. I sent my associate John Lee Anderson to Guatemala to report the story. He has spent weeks talking to both sides. Guatemala is a beautiful country, a tropical paradise, but political violence has turned it into a Dante's Inferno. At first, the violence was invisible to the visitor's eye, but now the death and devastation can no longer be hidden. The cause of this destruction is an utter ruthlessness on both sides. Hardcore communists are running the revolution. They're recruiting peasants who have been oppressed by the government. They call themselves the guerrilla army of the poor. They've burned out farms, blown up bridges, destroyed buildings. They've slaughtered people who opposed them.
What are we to know? Who knows where they come from? They come at night. And my poor husband, he was frightened because they were going to kill him. And I was with my husband. They took my husband for a month.
The military government has retaliated with a savagery that's been equally indiscriminate. Army General Efrain Rios Montt seized power last March. He's a born-again Christian. He's been portrayed as a staunch anti-communist with a Christian conscience.
I raise my hand. Since March, I have never ordered burnings. What do you think of the army? Are they good or bad? Well, when they burned the houses, yes, I thought they were bad. How could they come and burn the houses, the corn, clothes, and everything? Did people die here as well? Yes. Did they kill them? Yes, they killed them. Just men? No, everyone. Men, women, and children too.
Both sides are stained with the blood of innocent people. Both sides are guilty of indiscriminate brutality. Both sides have ruled their sectors by sheer calculated fear. Next week, more on terrorism in Guatemala from both the left and the right. I'm Jack Anderson in Washington.
Jack Anderson Confidential is a Jack Barry, Dan Enright production in association with Able Communications.
At this point, I hesitate to say I'm not. There's nothing for me. My husband is dead. The government owes people that are still alive safe working conditions, and those that are suffering some kind of compensation to ease their lives. For me, there is nothing. My husband's gone. I am speaking to try and prevent other people going through what he and I have gone through. There's nothing in this for me. I'm speaking for all the other people, the other workers that are going through what we went through. And there are more of them. They're still getting sick and they're still dying.
From the West Coast to the East Coast, across the Atlantic, to London and Frankfurt, to Hawaii. Fly World Airways to the world of your dreams. World, the airline for people who hate to waste money.